Hello, my name is Lauren Hazel, and welcome to In Biz Notes. This is the free chapter of the book I am still and currently reading, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, one of my favorite authors, and he is also the author of The 48 Laws of Power, among many other books. I hope you enjoy this summary of this chapter with the key points all in it. This is chapter 1. Master Your Emotional Self, the Law of Irrationality. Chapter summary. Begin with the story of Pericles and the Athenians. This chapter focuses on how we humans are all irrational creatures by nature. We can't escape this fact, but we can do things to help us become more rational. Robert Greene uses the story of Pericles to illustrate this, as well as what happens when we allow our passions and emotions to get the best of us. In this chapter, you will learn about your natural state of being irrational, as well as ways to help you in your development into rational thinking. Tips to center yourself so that your emotions do not completely take over and cause you to make a bad decision, and how to identify the people around you who are highly irrational. The chapter also points out that we all think we are rational creatures and that we are dominated by our emotions that our brains have not developed in a way to truly process. Key points. Everyone believes they are rational. However, this is far from the truth, as we are dominated by our emotions. Find a way to get out of the trap of letting emotions dominate your actions. Master your emotions. Special note. Emotions turn us inward away from reality. They wind up clouding our vision. Pull yourself away during highly emotional situations. Find a quiet place to think. Take time before making a decision or taking an action when possible. Open yourself up to new and different ideas from others. Rationality is a power we acquire. We are not born with it. Identify these emotions that are affecting your ideas and decisions. Find the balance between the rational and emotional parts of self. Learn to ask yourself questions. Why do you feel angry? Etc. The result of these questions is your emotions will lose their hold on you. You can think more clearly. You'll be more creative and make better decisions. The blame game. Our first reaction is to blame something or someone else. We look outward. This is deeply ingrained in our nature. However, generally, our rationality is what causes us to have miscalculations or come to bad decisions. Example, bubbles in the economy work because they stimulate our natural tendencies toward greed, money, and quick results. It's hard to not join in or pull away. Be careful of bubbles. And this is a side note. This is not in the notes. This is me going off. I studied economics and finance when I was in college and also in grad school. And it always comes back to these points. Bubbles in the economy are normal occurrences. They happen in every single, economy that deals with capitalism. And they're often fueled by people being too greedy. They think that it will never end, that we can just keep going up without a crash happening. And despite the evidence, despite how many times crashes have happened, we get caught up in our emotional pull to the money. We get greedy. We fear that if we miss out, if we stop. So this is what this is about. This is why bubbles are so attractive. This is why so many people lost their jobs and money in real estate. Why people were willing to do unscrupulous things. They were willing to encourage people to take out mortgages even though those folks could not afford it. They're willing to not fill out paperwork or have people with no credit scores or addresses. These are the reasons why things happen, because they wanted to make more money and the greed kicked in. And of course, the system at the time was encouraging it for those loan officers. Now, not all of them, but some of them, they got caught up in the emotions of the whole thing. And so they wind up doing something very irrational. And as everyone at the time who was investing from the banks to housing did a very bad decision making there. They got caught up in emotions. They got caught up in the greed of the quick results. So be careful about that, especially if you're an investor in bubbles. Happens all the time. Okay, back to the reading. Rational versus irrational types. The difference is the degree of awareness. Rational types can readily admit their irrational tendencies and they tend to be vigilant. Irrational types become highly emotional when challenged about the emotional root of their decisions. They are incapable of introspection and learning. The mistakes make them increase their defensiveness. Okay? Another side note, real quick. So you got to be very careful when you're dealing with people who are rational or rational folks. Now, we're all irrational by nature because we're human beings, right? We have to learn how to be rational creatures or conduct ourselves more rationally, right? At some point in time in most cultures, there was a process of going from childhood to adulthood where hopefully the child becomes more rational in the ways of whatever that culture was. You can debate whether that still happens depending on what culture you're in, right? But you need to be careful of irrational types. When you point out something from someone who is an irrational type, I mean, they're irrational all the time. They become very defensive. They blame you for every single thing. You point out that, hey, you said this and you did this, and it's like you're attacking them, even though you're just pointing, something out. So they can't look back on their decision making. They try to flip it on you all the time. They're not really capable of learning from their mistakes. They tend to make the same mistakes all over again. Versus rational people, eventually they stop making the mistakes that they think about. They know they're irrational and they try to reason themselves to be a more rational person. They're vigilant. They try to avoid situations or things that's going to make them have irrational thinking and taking rash actions. So that is the difference. Be careful of those types. Okay, back to the reading. Warning. Irrationality is not some means of transcending emotion. Okay? The steps of becoming rational. Understanding our fundamental irrationality. Number 1, we are wired to be irrational based on how we process emotions. Number 2, no one is immune from the irresistible effects of emotion on the mind. 3-step process to acquire rationality. Number 1, recognize the biases. 6 biases to watch out for. Confirmation bias. Finding evidence to support your own beliefs. Conviction bias. Believing in something so strongly that it must be true despite any other evidence or opinions. Appearance bias. Believing to understand people and deal with them as they are, aka you take them as you see them. The group bias. Believing your ideas are your own and that you are not influenced by a group. The blame bias. Believing others are to blame for our mistakes and not taking into account our actions because of our ego. Superiority bias. Believing you are different, more rational than others, and can't make the same mistakes. Number 2, beware the inflaming factors. Example, early childhood triggers flight. It could be fear of losing control, of failure. In this case, we react by withdrawing from the situation in the presence of others, like a child curling up in a ball. This can be found on page 33 of the hardcover edition if you want to look more into triggers. Key quote, the great danger here is that in misreading the present and reacting to something in the past, we create conflict, disappointments, and mistrust that only strengthen the wound. Our only defense is awareness as it is happening. Other things to watch out for: sudden gains and losses, rising pressure, inflaming individuals, the group effect. Side note. All right, so I'm going to go off a little bit on this. Gains and losses, that deals for those of you who are in business. You get a client and making some money, things feel good, and you tend to get a little bit too much in the moment of the money and not really basing yourself in the reality that you need to get the next client or keep pursuing the path to make sure your business is stable. Sudden losses. Maybe you invested some money in Bitcoin, and as the time of this recording, Bitcoin has taken quite a nosedive. People take those losses to heart. They think they'll wind up thinking investing is trash, even though it's because of bad investing decisions and not paying attention to the market, getting too much in being irrational. But you got to be careful of losses because you can have a major loss and then go deeper into being more irrational because everything is centered around your loss. So everything is centered around your gain. Be very careful. Rising pressure. Now, let's say you are starting your business, you lose your job. So now there's more pressure for you to make money somehow. So either you're going out to get a job or you're trying to build this business. Now, for those of you trying to make it as entrepreneurs, there's this rising pressure, especially if you have a family, especially if you have people getting sick around you, or if you have children or bills to pay, that this thing needs to work. And sometimes you will make rash decisions, invest in a coaching program you shouldn't be in, buy a course you shouldn't buy programs you shouldn't buy, go into deals with certain people because of the rising pressure that you're currently feeling. Inflaming individuals. This is all social media right here. So that's when you have certain people on Facebook or on Instagram who are intending to inflame you, or they'll say commentary on your post to purposefully inflame you. Be very careful. There are people who are narcissistic. Everything's about them. They can do no wrong, and they make it their living to inflame you. So be very careful with that. It could take you, sidetrack you. It can raise your anxiety. So be aware. Be aware when you're intentionally being inflaming as well. The group effect. This is very interesting to see the group effect in action, especially if you're on social media and groups and Facebook. There are some people who I don't always agree with in their approach and what they're doing, but I'm like, okay. But then I watch everybody else kind of agree with everything they do, despite whether it's wrong or not. Had it been somebody else who did the same thing or said the same thing, they would disagree. And in some cases, I've seen them disagree with someone else who's had the same rhetoric. So be careful of the group effect. There are some people who think that they are not influenced by groupthink whatsoever, that they're not influenced by their society. They're not influenced by their culture. They say, things like race doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. But everything they do has been an effect of some of these factors playing in their lives, whether they are aware of it or not. Most of the times with the group effect, people are not aware of the other factors going on. So if you do bring it up to him like, hey, you got here, or you're here, or you think this way because of this, they will usually deny that this is the case. But we're all affected by the group in some form of fashion, whether how we got here or how we live or display or the morals we have. So just be aware and be cognizant and be careful. But that's the end of that. Let me head on to the next point. Step 3. 3 strategies to bring out the rational self. Know thyself thoroughly. Don't be ignorant of your emotional self. Be aware of it. Examine your emotions to their roots. Find a neutral position to observe and examine your actions. Keeping a journal helps. Accept people as facts. When people show you who they are, believe them. That is a quote by Maya Angelou. Don't idealize what you see. Work with what they give you. Find the optimal balance of thinking and emotion. Thinking and emotion are intertwined. Channel your emotional energy so that the rational is more in control. Find that balance by loving the rational, but don't be foolish in thinking you are not emotional and that the emotional side is not important. Okay, this is the end of chapter 1, the key points and summary of the laws of human nature from chapter 1, the law of irrationality. Thank you for listening. I hope you got a whole bunch out of it without having to read all 60-something pages of that particular book. Now, this is the thing. If you want more, because this is a sample, there are 18 chapters in this book, and I'm reading and doing the same thing, writing the notes, recording the audio, as well as going to do a general notes on the book, aka I'm going to take all 18 chapters and do a 5-sheet, 6-sheet summary of the entire thing on one PDF document and then do an audio recording with that. So there's chapter by chapter breakdowns and analysis with the audio. Plus there will be a general book book summary, which will include every single chapter by itself, but it's more of a quick sheet. So let's say, you don't have time to listen to every single chapter or read every single PDF of the chapters. You'll be able to pull out the general book summary with a couple of key points and some quotes in that. Read it, get a good sense of what the whole thing's about. Listen to the audio, which will be a quick sense, something that'll be less than about 15 to 20 minutes long, just on that, and go about your day and your way. And then when you want to do some deeper dive learning, you could take this chapter by chapter where I go deeper into that chapter like I did in chapter 1. All right, so if you would like the rest of this and to be a part of something I hope will be considered special, which is In Biz Notes, in which the business books that I read, the self-development books that I read, the memoirs of business folks that some of us aspire to be and what they did. If you would like to be a part of that group that gets the notes from me, that gets the audio from me, and anything else I'm going to be doing with this group, you too can become a subscriber. Now, the cost of most business books is around $30. Some business books are $40. Some books are about $25 or $27 a piece. And that is just the physical version of the book. That's not including the audio version of a book for those of you who prefer to listen, which is why I did this the way I did it. Something you can read on all your devices, and it's also something you can listen to on all your devices. What this will cost, your investment, if you decide this is what you want to do, is only $28 a month. That is less than the cost of what most of you spend on business books anyway. I know some of you buy business books all the time, but you never really get a chance to read them. Time constraints, maybe you have a learning disability that makes it hard to process, but you want to interact, you want to learn the lessons from these books, you want to be able to apply them to your business, apply them to your life, because you want a better life that you can do what you want, because this is not just about making more money or changing careers. This is about improving your life and hopefully not making the mistakes that have taken so many other businesses out of here. So this is the reason why I'm doing this. I love to teach, I love to read, and I love to break it down, and I want to help more of you out there do the same thing. So if you're willing to invest $28 a month, which is about the cost of one book, you will get the breakdown of books by chapter with the audio attached to it, as well as the general book breakdown with an audio attached to it, so that you can learn at your pace the way you prefer to learn. So if you would like to do that, in the PDF download, there is a link in which you can click and become a subscriber of as well. Also, you'll get emails from me offering the offer to you. It is $28 for right now. And I'm going to just let you know some books that are coming up. Confessions of an Advertising Madman by David Ogilvy. I will be doing that. I'm going to be reading the 80-20 principle again and doing a breakdown of that. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Work the System by Sam Comforter. Ogilvy on Advertising, another David Ogilvy book. I'll be doing that. I'll be going over Principles by Ray Dalio, as well as Start With No by Jim Camp. How to Win Friends and Influence People will be another book I'm going to throw in there. And The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan will be another book that I will be reading and breaking down. And the great thing is, if you become a member, I'll let you guys vote on the books that you would like me to have next. But these are some of the books that are coming. So if you would like to be a part of this In Biz Notes subscriber, you click on a link inside the PDF and become a subscriber. It's only $28 a month. It's not much. It's about the cost of a business book now. Only you will get it broken down, plus with the audio, so that you don't have to go through the books alone, so that you can have a little extra put out there. Because I know for some of you, if you have a learning disability, reading a whole bunch of business books is a little trying. And unless you have hours of time that you can read a 600-page book like The Laws of Human Nature, or a 700-page book like some of the others, it might be a little bit challenging. But I know you want to improve yourselves and grow your business and be a better person and live a great life. So This is the opportunity where I get to share some of my insights of what I get from these books, as well as the breakdown and summaries of the books that you can have at your disposal. If you want to become a member of InBiz Notes, go into the PDF, click the link. It's a PayPal link, and you will become a member in this. And I'll be glad to have you a part of the InBiz Notes family. Until then, enjoy, get the best out of it, and make sure to keep on working on your business, as well as keep on educating yourself about how to run your business and improve yourself as a person so you can be more successful in your life. My name is Lauren Hazel. I am the founder of InBiz Notes, and if you would like to be a part of it, once again, the link is in the PDF that you can click and become a part of it and get chapter by chapter breakdowns and summaries with audio for each chapter, as well as the whole book summary, and it's only $28 a month. If you're ready, click on the link. I'll be ready to meet you, and we'll go through this journey together.